Good morning. How are you today?
I'm finding yourself.
I'm good, thank you, and welcome. I'm Pat Michael. I'm a volunteer with the Middletown Historical Society in Middletown, Delaware, and I'm here with Keith Schneider, who's our videographer, and we're in the Appaquiddick Community Library in Middletown, Delaware. And what we're doing with this video is to document the history of the town of Middletown
All right.
through your memories and experiences so that we can get a good picture of what everyone experienced living here.
All right.
Okay, so we'll get started. What is your full name and do you have a nickname?
My full name is Patricia Lorraine Walker, and my nickname is Patty.
When and where were you born?
I was actually born in Lansing, Michigan, while my father was in the United States Air Force. I was born November the 30th, 1952.
And how did your family come to live here?
Well, my father and my mother were both Middletonians. They both lived in Middletown. Matter of fact, my father lived where the neighborhood house is now, which used to be called Red Row. And my mom, she lived on Anderson Street with my great-grandparents, Eddie and Annabelle Fields.
So they just wanted to come home?
Yes.
Were there other family members in the area at that time?
Yes. My grandparents, Rosanna Jones Walker and Lee Llewellyn Walker Sr. So, yes.
What was the house you grew up in like? How many rooms did it have? Did it have electricity? Did it have running water?
Well, originally we had well water and we had an outhouse. But after Lyndon Baines Johnson signed the Civil Rights Bill in July of 1964, the town of Middletown made us a part of the town of Middletown. Prior to that, we were called Browntown. And after that, the people who lived on the latter end of Lake Street, and it was called Hamtown. And so, yes, we had a good time.
So your section was called Browntown. Was it further outside of town than Hamtown, or what was the distinction?
No, Hamtown was further towards 299 going east, like going towards Odessa. That's where Hamtown was. It was what we know as New Street, and it was Elizabeth Street and Jefferson Street. That was known as Hamtown. So Cox Street, North Cox Street, and East Lockwood Street, we were called Browntown. So yes, we were pretty good.
And all of that changed once the civil rights legislation.
Yes, once the civil rights legislation took place, then the town of Middletown, we became available for running water and all of that. And that latter part of 64, say around September, that's when my dad put in a bathroom.
What was your earliest childhood memory?
My earliest childhood memory was living what I know to be what we called Red Row, which is where the neighborhood house is now. And it was near the sand lot and all of that. And in 1959, the hurricane came. And we were outside having fun, and all of a sudden that wind blew up, and my grandmother said, "Get in here." She made us get in the house, and we had to sit down and be quiet because she said God was talking. I always wanted to know what was God saying.
What kind of games did you play growing up?
hopscotch. We played marbles. We played checkers. And we also did bingo and all of that. So it was pretty fun as a kid.
Did you play outside games?
Oh, yes. Hide and seek. Red Rover, Red Rover. Send Patty Walker over. Because nobody never called me just plain Patty. I was always Patty Walker. And I'm like, come on. Just say Patty. No, it's Patty Walker. I said, okay.
What was your favorite thing to do for fun? Did you go to the movies? Did you go to the beach?
Well, we would go to the movies because at that time it was only like a quarter. We had to pay a quarter. Now it's outrageous. But every now and then it was good going to the Everett Theater, especially at Christmas time, because they gave you an orange, an apple, a tangerine, and a little box of rock candy. Oh man, that was the bomb.
Did you ever go to the beach?
No, I didn't go to the beach until I was actually an adult. And I gave birth to my son in 1976. Matter of fact, he'll be 50 years old this year. And I used to take him to the beach. My father wouldn't take us because he said we would drown. He was adamant. He wouldn't even, and we used to say, well, let us do swimming lessons. He wouldn't do it. And not only that, he wouldn't allow us to ride bicycles. Because he said you would be out in the street and get ran over by a car. So.
Did you have family chores when you were growing up, and what were they?
Oh, my goodness, yes. 1 week we would have to press clothes. The next week we had to clean the house. And then my grandmother also taught us that as girls, we had better learn how to cut the grass, trim the bushes, and pull the weeds. And then she would also make the boys iron the clothes, do the wash and everything, because she said, if you don't get somebody to provide for you, then you're going to have to provide for yourself. And that's what she told my brothers. She told them, suppose you don't get a wife. You got to know how to cook and clean. Yes.
What was school like when you were a child, and what was your worst and best subjects, and where did you go to school?
Well, I attended Lois L. Redding from grades 1 through 6. And after the signing of the Civil Rights, then the mandate for us to no longer be separate but equal, that's when my father said that since we're paying the property taxes and all of that, you will go. So yes, I wound up going to Middletown High when they were grades 1 through 12, which is now Everett Meredith Middle School. So yes, and my best subject was history. I was a historian. I loved it. And my history teacher at that time was Miss Bradley. Oh my gosh. And I had living history because my great-grandfather at that time was 100 years old. And so therefore I took my book where he had told us all the stories about the horse and buggy days and all of that. And so I was able to put in Miss Bradley's hand a book that my grandfather had taken notes, wrote about his life as growing up as a child. Because he was 13 years after. He was born 13 years after Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation. So it was good. It was a nice life.
Did you go to college?
Yes.
Where'd you go?
I went to Delaware State. At that time, it was Delaware State College. It's now Delaware State University. I graduated May the 16th, 1976, with a degree in secondary education. And I had the ability to teach grades 7 through 12 and junior college in history. I also have a master's degree in divinity, Enlightened Bible College and seminary. So I did.
Do you remember any fads in your youth, like popular hairstyles or
Oh, yes.
clothes? Or
The popular hairstyle in my day was the afro, which is the big bushy hair and all of that. And the clothing was the bell bottoms and dashikis and all of that. So yeah, it was pretty cool.
What were your favorite songs and music?
Well, my favorite songs at the time was My Girl by the Temptations and Gladys Knight and the Pips. And after that, gospel. For the most part, it was gospel music. Because my brother, the late Donald E. Walker Sr., he played the piano. And when my father began preaching, he played the piano and the organ for the church. And so we grew up gospel, basically.
What church was that?
My father, his first pastoral charge was Mount Olive AME Church in Magnolia, Delaware. And then he was moved from there to Mount Friendship AME Church in Smyrna. So, and his last charge was Emmanuel AME Church in Hartley, Delaware.
Did you have any pets when you were growing up? And if so, what? No.
No. My dad said, because I wanted so bad a St. Bernard. I wanted a St. Bernard. And my father said, a dog? It takes all I got to feed your house. Well, I'm going to feed a dog. And then my mother, she wanted a cat. Well, guess what? No. My father went out one Christmas and bought my mother 2 ceramic cats and said, that's all the cat you're going to get in here. Because I never will forget one day, Mrs. Spearman, my 3rd grade teacher, she lived 2 doors from us. Well, my father and my uncle was bringing in the Christmas tree, and the cat came in with the tree. And my father said, Alice! 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 Oh, he was screaming to the top of his lungs, get the cat! Get the cat! Mommy had to crawl up underneath the Christmas tree and grab the cat. And she called Miss Spearman to come over and get Nubby. Nubby was the name of the cat because it had a tail that didn't grow out. And Mom said, you scared of a cat? Ain't that something a grown man?
That's funny. What was your religion growing up? You kind of talked about this a little bit.
My religion we're actually Methodism, mythology, but the A is for African and the E is for Episcopal, because we're African Methodist Episcopals, because Richard Allen, who is our founder, he thought that Methodism was easy for those of us to follow because there is a method to it. And African is because of our society of people, and Episcopal is because we elect bishops every 4 years for years, and those bishops we have now 21 districts all over Canada, Africa, Bermuda, and some of the other countries, and that's what we do. So yes, but Methodists, that's what we are. And
Were you ever mentioned in the newspaper or other publications?
I was when I graduated. I was listed in the who's who's of American students when I was there at college, and I did have a couple of publications with poetry. But other than that, I'm good.
In a book or?
No, they were actually. Well, I don't know if it's in a book anywhere, but it was a pamphlet. They sent it out to me and asked me if I would do it, and I did. I wrote I Dream a Dream, and then I also Who Are We, and that was, it wasn't much, but it was okay.
Who were your friends when you were growing up?
Well, my closest friend, she lived next door. Her name was Cynthia. She was Cynthia Perkins. And the lady then my other friends were Jennifer Foreman, who lived 2 doors from us, and then on Anderson Street, Nelson Waters and Bertha Brinkley, and there were a couple of other people, but I didn't do a whole lot of socializing, simply because I spent most of my time in church. My father said, I'm not everybody else's father, and neither is your mother, but as for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord. So every Sunday, if there were 2 services, we were at church. We couldn't do the movies and.
What world events had the most impact on you while you were growing up, and did any of them personally affect your family?
No, not that I can recall, because the only thing that I really was excited about was when they had the World Fair, and it was in New York.
One of them.
And one of them was in New York, and my mom and my aunt Virginia, they went and took pictures and all of that. So we got to see the big globe of the world and everything. So that was it for me.
How are holidays, birthdays, Christmas, whatever other holidays you celebrated in your family? And did you have special family traditions?
Oh, yes. When I was growing up, every birthday, my grandmother would fix each of us our favorite meal. And my favorite meal was hot dogs, baked beans, applesauce, and shortbread. And my sister would get mad at me, my sister Deborah. She would get mad at me because she would say, Trisha, why don't you ask for steak and baked potato? Because I don't want steak and baked potato. I want hot dogs and baked beans and shortbread. That's what I want.
How about Christmas? Did you celebrate?
Now, Christmas, we celebrated, and every Christmas, we were to get one big gift and one little gift. And so, my 16th birthday, I don't know if you remember, but on my 16th birthday, my grandmother made my parents buy her, because I wanted a maxi coat, which the coat that went all the way down to your shoes, and I wanted a pair of black and white saddle shoes. Because I was like, oh, yeah, we got this. So my mother, my mom, and my dad, they gave me $50. That was big money, $50. And so I wound up going to up on Kirkwood Highway to the to the store, and I think Robert, remember the store, Robert Hall?
Yeah.
I bought my maxi coat there for $29, and I got my saddle shoes for $12, and I was like, yeah. Oh, I was excited, you know. I was all happy because I was able to get my maxi coat and my saddle shoes, and I went back to school proud. Yes, because I was in the 11th grade. I was almost graduating.
How is the world today different from what it was like when you were a child?
There was more peace when I was a child. And my family seemed to have had an ability to keep us, happy. I mean, for me, all you had to do is cook me something to eat. I was Gucci. The food was I was, but to me, it's a lot of chaos right now. It's a lot of confusion. So I don't know. For me, the family was the dynamic. There was more family gatherings. There were more family traditions to go by and to do, because every year, every New Year, my grandmother put the spread on the table that nobody, I mean, we had a little bit of everything. Food galore. And my father said, I'm glad I only had to feed y'all once a year now that you're grown.
Those are good memories, though.
Yes.
What do you know about your family's surname, like your maiden name? Do you know anything about the history of that?
Yes. My grandmother's surname was Jones. And Samuel and Eliza Jones were my great-grandparents. And they are instrumental in holding the first services of Ringo Chapel, African Methodist Episcopal Church, in their home. And then my great-grandmother's sister, Mabel, she had the property where the church is now. She donated the property so that the church could be moved. It was moved in 1942 to where it is right now on 71. 5017 Summer Bridge Road. That's the church. And my great-grandfather on my mother's side, which is James Edward Fields Sr., and my great-grandmother Annabelle White Fields, Trinity AME Church on Lockwood Street. My great-great-grandmother, she is the Missionary Society is named after her, Annie White Missionary Society. So always my family has been able to be a part of the history of Middletown, especially in the African American community. My great-grandfather also served on the school board for Loisel Redding. He was the chairman of the board. And my grandfather, Lee Llewellyn Walker Sr., he was instrumental in Loisel Redding being built. Governor Carver asked my grandfather after he got elected, because Governor Carver was elected basically after my grandfather. Oh, my grandfather was a straight up Democrat, and so he asked Governor Carver after he got elected. He asked my grandfather what did he want to happen, and he told him, said, I would prefer that you build a school that my children could attend. And sure enough, Lois L. Redding was built in 1952. And my grandfather, Lee Llewellyn Walker Sr., made that happen. So I was happy.
I can see why. Is there a naming tradition in your family, such as always giving the firstborn son the name of his paternal grandfather?
Say that again.
Is there a naming tradition in your family, such as always giving the firstborn son the name of his paternal grandfather?
Yes, because my brother is Luther Lee Walker III. My dad was Luther Lee Walker Jr., and my papa was Lee Llewellyn Walker Sr. So yes.
That fits the bill.
And now it's 5 of them. Because my nephew is the 4th, and my great-nephew is the 5th.
I know, it's pretty impressive. Considering that we're celebrating the 250th anniversary of our country this year, what stories have come down to you about your parents, grandparents, more distant ancestors in relation to their involvement in keeping this country, starting this country or keeping it going?
Okay. Well,
do you go back as far as the Revolutionary War? Civil War, I'm sure.
I'm not for sure, because my great-grandparents never talked about that. And I don't remember my great-grandfather on my father's side, Jackson Walker. I don't remember, because all I know is that he migrated from Georgia up to Virginia. And after that, I didn't know anything about whether they were in any of the wars, whether it was Revolutionary or Civil War. I'm not for sure.
Did they move from Georgia after the Civil War?
Yes, my great grandfather, Jackson Walker.
So you don't know further back than that?
No.
Are there any stories about famous or infamous relatives in your family? Well, besides your grandfather, great-grandfather starting the Lois L. Redding.
No. Not that I know of. No.
Are there any special heirlooms, photos, Bibles, or other memorabilia that have been passed down in your family?
Yes. My mother passed down dishes, a set of china, fine china, from my great-grandmother, Annie White. And my grandmother, Anna Walker, which is my father's mother, she passed down the, a set of dishes that, they were like, remember the dishes that had the blue and white and all, it was, so that's.
And who's got those now?
They're in 109 East Lockwood Street in the buffet, and my sister, right now, it's in where she's living, Lois, my baby sister.
Okay. But nothing to document your family's.
No.
Okay. Like sometimes the families put information like that in the Bibles, the births and.
Well, we did have a Bible, but I don't know where it got to, because I know my mom had one that actually belonged to my great grandmother, Annie White, but I don't know what happened to it.
Okay. What was the full name of your spouse, and tell us a little bit about him. Whatever you want to say.
Okay. Well, his name was Marion Leroy Henry. But we weren't married long enough for me to even get to know him because I got tired of the foolishness. I did. I got tired. Because, quote unquote, we came from two different worlds. I was raised, church girl, as he put it. And we didn't gel. I married him on July the 29th, 1988, and divorced him on January the 30th, 1992. Because I couldn't deal with the craziness. Because what I told him was, I don't know how to fight. My parents didn't argue in front of us. So I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to even get angry. Because I never saw that as a child. So.
Okay, enough said. I was going to ask you how you met him.
Well, I met him because my best friend, Cynthia, she was married to his older brother, Arthur. So that's how I met him. And it was like, oh, wow. Tragedy.
Where and when did you get married?
I got married, I went to Elton, to that little chapel over there, and I got married there on July the 29th, 1988.
They have a couple questions here about your spouse, but what did your family enjoy doing together? You and he and your children, at least.
Well, basically going to the amusement parks. I know a couple of times we went to King's Dominion, which was pretty cool. And a couple of times we went to Crystal Beach. So, yeah, it wasn't too bad. But like I said, I was looking forward to growing old with my husband, but he just didn't seem to want to do that, I guess. So he wound up, after we got the divorce, he wound up marrying someone else. So I'm good.
What was your profession and how did you choose it? You've had a couple professions, but
Yes, I did. My oldest profession was I worked for DuPont as a lab technician, a level 4 lab technician. And then when I left from there, I worked for the Department of Natural Resources and Environmental Control, DNREC as they call it. And I worked for them as a secretary because that's what got me in. That's what got me into DuPont's also, my secretarial skills, because I would do shorthand and, I could translate it all and all of that. And then after I left them, DNREC, I went to work for the Boys and Girls Club. And that was my greatest joy because I was working with children again. Working with children has always been my blessing because I also taught church school, or what they call Sunday school. I taught that, and so, yeah, working with children has always been my great joy.
And you were a preacher as well, right?
Yes.
Are you still? Do you still?
Well, I still have the license to preach. And so having the license to preach, they say, they call me Sister Walker because all I have is the license. I have not been officially ordained an elder in the AME church, but I was ordained an elder on March the 24th, 2013 at Greater Life Christian Church, which is a non-denominational church, under the leadership of Bishop James Alden Ashley Sr. So, yes. And yes, I still preach.
You're probably good at it. If you could have had any other profession, what would it have been, and why wasn't it your first choice?
You, I don't think if I could have had any other profession, I'm telling you, what I actually would have loved to have done was have been to played softball professionally, or even played little league. I was angry that they didn't allow girls to play little league when I was a child. Now they're letting girls play little league. I mean, my brother taught me well. My brother Luther, well, we call him Cy. Cy taught me well how to scoop up the ball and all of that. And
They wouldn't let you play.
they wouldn't let me play because I was a girl.
When did that change? When did they start letting girls? Do you know?
They started letting girls play. Oh, I want to say, maybe in the latter 90s. Because when my son was playing Little League, he played for the Mites. They didn't let girls play then either. But I'm almost certain at the middle of the 90s, that's when girls started. Because I remember watching the Little League All-Star game at in Williamsport, PA, and they had a girl pitching. I was like, "What? How come what's going on?" But yes, I really would have wished they had it, because I wanted to play professional baseball.
What accomplishments were you the most proud?
1, being a mother. 2, being a preacher. And 3, being me. Because I felt as though there was a point in time where, I felt that everybody would have to like me because of who I was. But then my pastor, when I was 39 years old, the Reverend Virginia Lynn Foster Sanders, she said, "Sister Walker, I hope you do know everybody's not going to like you." I said, "What?" I went home and cried for days because I didn't understand. Why wouldn't you like me? I give my best. I give everything to people. I shared sandwiches with people who were hungry and everything. But I found out she was right. Everybody doesn't like.
How has the recent development affected the area in Middletown?
There aren't enough roadways. I remember going from Odessa to over the railroad tracks in less than 5 minutes. Now, it takes me from going from Odessa to over the railroad track 40 minutes. Come on, it's too many people here and not enough roadways. If you don't know the back roads, you stuck. If you don't know how to navigate between, like I can go from my house now, go straight across and go down Lake Street, and then I can make it out to the Middletown Shopping Center. What? To the farmer's market. If you don't know how to do that, you trouble. You're going to be really mad.
Anything else besides the roads?
It's a whole lot of choices. Before we had what, the 301, which was at that time called Money's. Now we got IHOP. We got all kinds of restaurants, and we got the Hobby Lobby. We got Michael's. We got to me, at this point, it's congested. It's no longer the ease of flow. And I don't know, maybe I'm being selfish, but I liked my quiet little middle town.
Well, you pretty much answered the next one. How has the community changed? What do you want people to know the most about yourself, your family, your business, etc.?
What I want people to know most about my family was that there was two sides to my family. Either you were a preacher or you were a teacher. And we produced out of 6 siblings. There were 4 of us who are reverends. Then out of, as far as my grandparents and all of them, their families, there were 4 teachers. So, cause my Aunt Artie, my Uncle Earl, my Aunt Virginia, and all of them, they were all teachers. And my mother's brothers, they were teachers. So, we all had that family.
What do you want people to know the most about Middletown's past? And you had mentioned to me your experiences during when integration occurred.
Yes, when integration took place, it was almost unthinkable, the names that I was called every day, or the way that people treated me. All they knew was that I was black or African American, and of course, the words were, instead of black, Negro, it was nigger. I'm not gonna sit next to a nigger. I remember, actually, I was in English class. Miss Fontaine was my English teacher, and the young man said to me, "I'm not sitting next to no nigger." And guess what I did? I slapped him on the face and left my handprint on his face, because I was determined that my name was not nigger. My name was Pat Walker, and either you call me that or you don't call me anything. But after, I want to say after about maybe my 10th grade, things seemed to get better. Because I guess they were now accustomed to us being in the school. So, I don't know. But my community-wise, things seem to me, get better. The only thing that I really, at the time when I was that age, was that we couldn't come to the center of town. The only time we could come to the center of town was if we were going to Mr. Tommy George's sub shop. And we had to get our food and then get back home. We couldn't linger, we couldn't talk or anything. But other than that,
When did that all change?
in the mid-'80s, I want to say around 1984, 1985, things seemed to get a whole lot better. And I don't know if it was because the changing of the dynamics of the council, because I believe at that time, we had several African Americans that served on the town council. So, yes.
How about with farming? Obviously, the farming was big in this area.
Yes.
Did people from your community work on the farms?
Yes. A matter of fact, my grandfather worked on the farm for Mr. Armstrong, and my dad, he worked on with Mr. Money's farm. We picked tomatoes. We would go out there too, pick tomatoes, pick the strawberries.
I think all the kids did from the town.
So it was happy. And then when I got a little older, Bertowski's, the potato farm, we used to work there for the summer months. Because I used to work for it so that I could because I wanted to pay my way through college. So that's what I did.
And obviously that's gone by the wayside
Yes.
for the most part, farming. What does the town have to offer the kids today that it's not the same as what you experienced?
It's not at all. Because
Are they better off these days as far as opportunities?
As far as I'm concerned, no, because they don't have anything to do. They really don't. And unless you have a certain grade point average and all of that, you can't work these, the McDonald's and all of those places at the age of 15 and 16. Because when I was growing up, you could work as long as you had, a C average and you were able to, get summer work. But what really angered me was that when I tried to work summer jobs in the school, they told me I couldn't work because my parents made too much money. What? What are you talking about? They made too much money. I'm broke. And evidently they broke too, because they don't. So I wound up doing day work, 3 hours a day, working with my aunt Thelma Queen, who is my mother's oldest sister. So yes, because they had the same father but different mothers. But anyway, Aunt Thelma, she would take us up in Newark to the various homes and everything, and we would clean, scrub floors and clean bathrooms, make beds and all of that. And I thank God because my grandmother taught me how to make a bed wherein you could throw a quarter on it and it would bounce. And I was like, wow. So yes, it was. So I did. I grew up pretty balanced.
Well, I don't have any more questions for you. Do you have anything else you want to add to this story?
Well, I do know that my father, the Reverend Luther Lee Walker Jr., happened to have been the first African American building and grounds superintendent for the Appoquinimink School District.
Well, there's somebody famous in your family.
Yes. Yes, he was. And I thought, wow, that's an honor. That is truly an honor. So other than that, life was great coming up.
Well, that's good. Is there anything else?
No.
Okay. Well, I really appreciate the stories that you tell about the past of the town and your past.
Yes.
It's very interesting, I think, and I'm sure that the Historical Society will be pleased
All right.
with the information that you provided. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having me, because that was really fun.
You done?